is the Torg Eternity Delphi Council Debriefings, where the storm has a name. We are your hosts, Jay and Leamon, and today we will be back in to Unhallowed Data, the Cyber Papacy Mega Adventure, Act 6. But before we get into that, we do have an email from Daniel that we wanted to read, and you can also email us at torgdcd@gmail.com. We'll read your email, answer questions you might have to the best of our ability, comment on your comments, etc. So this says, hello, Leamon and hosts, which would be Jay.
Hey.
I just want to reach out to thank you for producing the Delphi Council Debriefing podcast. I've been able to get so many information and inspiration out of your talks, and I don't want to miss it. I really enjoy listening to you getting through the different perks, the cosms, the high lords, and so on. Well, thank you very much, Daniel. That's the reason why we have been doing these, is to get that information out there, to give game masters and players ideas and learn more about Torg. It says, I know what you say. Or it says, I took a break from Torg Eternity for approximately 1.5 years, and diving back into game mastering again soon. I know what you say. How can anybody take a break from that fantastic game? The thing is, I started playing Torg Eternity with my group of role-playing and newbies in April 2021, and after playing an original campaign, that should last about a year, which then lasted until September of 2024. So a game that should have lasted a year lasted
That's how
3
it goes.
years. That's dedication, but that's cool because sometimes it's game just stops because we got past our time. So that is cool. A 3-year game. We decided to try a couple of other role playing games. I can't wait to game master Torg Eternity again, but currently struggling on what I should play with my groups. I want to get through 1 or 2 mega adventures with them, but otherwise I want to show them how cool it could be to mix different cosms. The only cosms the group hasn't been to is Pan Pacifica, the Living Land, and Isle. What would you recommend from these cosms to go to? And in your opinion, which of the mega adventures from Isle or Living Land can be shortened in a good, I think it's supposed to be good way without missing too much of the flaw of the cosm, maybe flavor of the cosm. So that he has a different question later. So Jay, if somebody hasn't been exposed to Pan Pacifica, Living Land, and Isle, are there any adventures, maybe not just mega adventures, but mega adventures or non-mega adventures that might be pretty good for these?
So if you want to do like mixing cosms and not all be in the same one, then Relics of Power is good, especially if it's for a group, if it's the same group and they've already played before. I'm just trying to remember what realities you go to in that. I know there's Living Land. you know,
There's at least all realities
yeah,
present, if not
yeah,
exactly you
somewhere.
go to.
Um, so Relics of Power redo, and also when Cosms Collide.
Yeah.
Although when Cosms Collide is a little more of a conceptual one, so sometimes you do have to do a little bit more thinking on your feet and like
Mm-hmm.
making some other stuff up. But it does get weird, but it does have a lot of cool, especially Isle interactions. Now, as far as the mega adventures go, I haven't actually run the God Box. I've only read it, and I haven't played it either. But it seems you could pretty easily take each act completely separately. You could make a nice Maritika campaign out of like is it 1 or 2 acts?
I think it's one. It's each
It's just
section is
one,
like
yeah.
one.
Like you could like in all honesty, for that adventure, I find some of the acts are kind of just there
Mm-hmm.
to show, okay, this is what is going on in Chicago, but some of them, like the Maritika one, are actually have a lot of interesting stuff. So you could pull that and just have that instead of the Living Land proper. And then as far as the Isle Mega Adventure goes, I actually like all of the different acts, so you could pretty much take most of them and retool them. If you wanted to do like a Corsair's swashbuckling one, there's an act for that. Um, there are some that probably wouldn't really fit if you weren't doing the mega adventure in full, but most of them you could. So both of those mega adventures have stuff you could do. They can be a little bit long. Like the Living Land one, God Box, is pretty much a straight run. Like you start and you have to go until you finish it. Whereas the Isle one has sort of different missions you can take, and you could spread it out or even have different characters do different parts of it. So there's a little more wiggle room. And I really do think Revenge of the Caradon is actually one of the better mega adventures personally. So yeah, those all work. I'm totally blanking on any other like Delphi missions and stuff like that too. I mean, I would plug my own Pan Pacifica Delphi mission. Um, but Pan Pacifica is funny because there's a lot of like little missions
Mhm.
for it, but there's not much. I guess one thing you could do is the Dr. Yi for the Cure of the Contagion
Mhm.
adventure too. That is outside of the mega adventure, that is a very like epic one.
Yeah, and we have both many times talked about First Walk also.
Yeah.
If you ever
Oh
want to
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, for sure.
introduce Living Land, First Walk is the go-to. Um, I
Mm.
agree. God Box is when I went through it, there was a whole act that I cut. It does a lot of teleport in, teleport out. So you can basically remove or add any acts that you wish because they're it's not like certain special ways are getting in there. You can change things to get the characters in and out of any of those acts pretty much. Um, the that one is a little easier to I've said this a lot, but while optimally you would want to prep anything, if you have to go in with like cold or lukewarm prep, Godbox is easier than when Cosms Collide. That one definitely read a few times before you go through it. That one, when I was just reading it for the first time, it took a little bit for me to get my brain wrapped around it. It also could have been because I was flying to a foreign country and had a foreign language in my mind a lot during the reading, but it's has a lot more different uses of game mechanics than straightforward things like the God Box is a little more straightforward. There's Operation Soft Cell, which is the Pan Pacifica Mega Adventure also. But if you want to show the combinations of things, then as you said, Jay, Relics of Power, Redux is the adventure to go through. It has at least representations of every reality, if not straight your
And
inside.
more.
Yeah, and more. So it shows a lot of mixing of realities and things like that. So those would be the adventures. Also, with that one, it's set up where certain acts can take place in with gaps between them.
Mhm.
So if you want to add stuff, you can add stuff or a couple of them. If you want to have, if you're running short on time, but you want to have kind of like the whole idea of it going on, you could just say that other Storm Knight, like, hey, here's three choices. Here's these three missions of this, the possible piece of the MacGuffin that you need to go on. And instead of having them go on each one, you have them choose which one they wish to go on, and then you just say that other Storm Knight groups went out on the other ones, and however you want to have them, I guess you'd want them to succeed so that when the players succeed, they have all the MacGuffin pieces or what have you. But then that can bring in the fact that the Delphi Council is not just your Storm Knight group, which
Yeah.
sometimes it seems
Seems
like
like.
it seems like it's the people in charge and then you as a Storm Knight group. So when you start developing other Storm Knight groups and even just mentioning them in passing, like hey, we sent this group over here, but you know they're not here, so we're giving this to you. Or if you want to make your players feel better, like we thought about this group, but you're better for this situation, so
Yeah.
we're sending you. However it is, because sometimes you do kind of look at your group and you're like, how did this group get brought together? Which
Why did
we've
they
gone
send
on
this group to a diplomatic mission?
mission, right? But sometimes, as we state, you might be the only Storm Knights around, so you're the only kind of half safe bet on not transforming. So those would be our recommendations for adventures. So then you had another question, and I have a question about mix zones. Since the cosms did not spread extremely until the end of year one, is it possible to have a mix zone of more than two cosms? And if so, how would it affect the laws and the feeling of that part of the world? Thank you for being so helpful, and please keep producing podcasts. And I really enjoy how easy it is to reach out to you and getting useful answers and inspirations, Daniel. So thanks again for the email. Um, Both of us actually thought in Classic Torg that Berlin might have been a three reality zone, but when we looked at our Berlin city books, it said that it was just Tharkold Nile. Um, Outside of that, I'm not sure if any classics might have had three zones. What would be required in Torg Eternity, if it's even possible? And I'm not going to say if that's possible or not, just that in year one it hasn't happened. Um, that's not a me being in year two it is going to happen. It's just me not stating anything. But you have to have either three steles, one of each reality, and then pretty much none of the realities are getting that possibility energy, and everybody inside, if they're transforming, is just there's lots of what ifs going up. The first one that happened, and then if the third, if somebody's second stele got planted or a new one came in, it would just like wreak havoc. I could see there being tons of reality storms within it. The other place that I might see it is if, say, you have those mixed isle Tharkold in the Blasted Land, because the Blasted Land
Mm.
without Stele is a mixed zone with core Earth. And then if something came in, say Isle came in and to an area that underlying Tharkold mix core Earth mix zone, even if it was three Isle, that might do something. Since Tharkold had already been there, um, that might be an interesting one where the Darkness Device still gets the energy because all three steles are its, but everything inside of it's jacked because it's three different realities going on. But that's something that I would encourage game masters, if you want to go there, don't necessarily wait for anything official if you want something to happen. Talismans and stuff also, soft points, hard, broken hard points, things like that. You can always come up with reasons. There's lots of different reality reasons. It's just nothing um, that I'm currently aware of, which means I could have forgotten anything from Classic Torg. It also means that I have so many different iterations of rules and concepts in my head working through year two right now that I might just be over not thinking about it because other things are in my brain currently. So did you have anything about
Yeah,
that?
I have this like vague memory of seeing something saying that there could only be two
Mm-hmm.
realities, but I have no idea where it was, and I don't even know where to look right now. Um, but that said, yeah, I mean, ultimately it's up to the GM, and you can pretty much change anything. The way you look at it in a normal, because normal mixed zones are mixed core Earth and whatever,
Hmm.
but we do have mixed zones that are cyber papacy Isle
Right.
and Pan Pacifica Orosh. So
Hmm.
it is possible. So that's pushed core Earth out completely, right?
Right.
So that's still just two realms.
Hmm.
So I would think the only way you could ever get three would be if it was three separate stellae, one from each reality.
Right.
And then that would be the most tumultuous, chaotic zone
Uh,
imaginable. Just
and
like,
whoever planted the third one would just be planting it to spite the other two, not for any
yeah, no
and
gain.
no gain for themselves, just a deprive another high lords of ever being able to do anything. So that's kind of how I see it. But yeah, the
Mhm.
inside of that would be racked with reality storms as Everlov 1 is going crazy, and even the Everlov 2 is like, hey, three's too many.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if you want to do it, you can do it, and then have it be an unprecedented, crazy
Hmm.
event. And it's the kind of thing that might even like only work for a while and short the Stella out or something.
Right.
Who knows? Yeah, it would be different.
Yeah, I think if I introduced it in my campaign, I would have something like that, like a limited time, make my players kind of wonder what was going on, or even like, oh, this is so bad, it is going to like cause a lot of what ifs, so we gotta somehow figure out how to bring down one of the Stele's piece, like
We just got to be doing glory
glory.
events in
Yeah,
there every
yeah,
day.
every day glory event, guys. We can do it. To spread those story seeds, get that possibility energy refilled back into those ords. Um, but yeah, it's something that could be interesting. Again, in classic Torg, the one place that I thought it was in, it's not in. I do have. Agree with you. I have that vague idea of somewhere it being stated that it could only be two, but that goes only as far as an author decides, to ask me, hey, Leamon, I want to do this cool thing with three realities. Then I'm like, well, give me the pitch because it has to be good if it's going to be breaking something that we came up with previously. But hopefully that answers your questions. And again, you can write us at torgdcd@gmail.com. So, Act 6, The Serpent's Mouth of Unhallowed Data. So, Act 5 was the getting, kind of rescuing Raphael, getting him away from the panicking mob. There was some Gothfog of the Third planting there. And then they kind of go out into the Amazon searching for what is being called the Garden of Eden. So that was something that we talked about last time. We talked about Unhallowed Data. There was rumor of a Garden of Eden with a tree bearing the
Tree.
fruit of life, which Raphael has some type of cancer or disease that the normal miracles and technological wonders of the cyber papacy is not able to be cured, so he wishes to go for that. Scene one is getting well. The Storm Knights get to Garupa, which is a little village along the banks of the Amazon.
Koki has a contact there.
Yes, so she wants to go bring the group there so that you can get the information of where to go to find the Garden of Eden. I remember my group spending they might have just hit beta because I started with them as alpha when they got to this point. Either that or they did whatever they had to do to like pull all of their like acquisition stuff. Maybe they even had a whatever the card is that gives you like a +5 to your acquisition test. so that they could get their own little boat. Uh, Trying to think, patrol boat, like military patrol boat looking thing. Um, One of my players specifically, went online and was like, "This is the boat I want for the group right here. Give me the DN game master." They ended up getting the boat, so they were happy. I mean, it's just a boat to drive them there, so it's not like it was a big cruiser or something that they could go across oceans, but they got there. Um, and basically, there is some weird stuff going on in Garupa. It's one of those stilt houses around the Amazon, muddy banks, fishing boats. So, game masters, you can kind of give that. It's definitely not a high tech. Um,
Yeah, that's the big thing.
that's the big thing. It's like this is very kind of primitive. They have had a GodNet tower was recently they said was destroyed by lightning. Um, there's not much trade, so it's pretty obviously self-sustaining. Fishing, some agriculture, um, and I'm trying to remember. Basically, there's a lot of wariness that vibes given from the townsfolk and the town's council. There's a character Julian representing the town council. He welcomes the heroes, so he's kind of like the hey, here's the tour guide, and can answer questions. It does give some things about to the game master, like this one's true, this one's true, this one's partially true, and this one's false. So there's uh, some truth mingled with falsehoods giving there. There is no longer a hotel, it says, but the Storm Knights are invited to recoup from their travels in one of the many recently abandoned homes near the village. Um, so it's kind of like a lot of homes are not inhabited, and it's like, hey, Storm Knights, choose which place you want to be,
Yeah.
which is another thing that might be like, huh,
Why are there so
why
many
yeah,
uninhabited?
the
Yeah.
homes. So it says at some point soon after their arrival, they meet Lucinia, a short, slender young woman washing clothes. Basically, she makes a point not to obviously interact with the Storm Knights, but she tends to whisper things or walk past them and nudge them and things like that, kind of to give a quote unquote obvious uh, something else is not right here. So there's lots of um, signs and clues that things aren't going as they want. Did you have anything to add about the initial part of getting into Garupa?
My group immediately felt something was off,
Mm-hmm.
considering it consisted of a cyber papacy drone jockey, a Tharkold mutant, and a Pan Pacifica gun runner. They were all like tech savvy types. Oh, and a Nodder,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they immediately saw like all of this as being like the lack of tech as being suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing was they looked around and the Tharkold mutant was the one that noticed the complete lack of any religious iconography, but because they were from Tharkold, they didn't think anything of it and didn't mention it to the others.
Nice.
um, yeah, so they poked around. I remember they did also find there's a bunch of discarded cyberware somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and at one point they did find that. And again, I think it was the Tharkold character that found it because she was the one snooping around the most. But she was like, "Oh my God, who would leave this salvage lying around?" So then her and the gun runner, like fixer type, were sort of thinking, "Hey, can we like gather this all up and
Right.
sell it, kind of stuff. And they were trying to figure that out, and they weren't really concerned about where it came from for whatever reason. They met with the town council and didn't really get any good answers. But then as soon as like the council says that Knox um Cookie's contact has never been here, they
Hmm.
were immediately all suspicious.
Right. Yeah. So at some
Oh, and I
point,
guess I should mention one of the big things is it takes hours and hours to actually get there.
hmm
So I don't know if their patrol boat made it a bit easier for them, but it's supposed to take, sorry, not hours, days. It's supposed to take like almost a week to get here. Like, getting to the river and then traveling by river,
hmm
through the Amazon. It's like supposed to be a huge journey. So when they get there and they're told that your guy's not here, and oh, you can rest for the night, that is a definite, like, you can't just turn around and go
go back.
home.
Right.
It's
Right.
like a week to get back home, so they're definitely gonna stick around. So my group was like, okay, we'll post guards, we'll uh you know in this hunt. And then eventually, this was kind of an interesting situation, uh, because there's also Luciania, as you mentioned, uh, that she is. So they noticed her looking at them,
hmm
and they thought she was suspicious. So they started, like, they intimidated her away or something, and so she was a little bit more hesitant to tell them anything later.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Pushing away the one person who might
yeah.
help you. There is a point. Um, yeah, like you said, there's a nearby pit discarded bits of tech junk. I want to also say, and I don't see it right here, but it's either in here or I just had it where a lot of things where cyberware had been used on people and they discarded it, so there might have been like people with missing,
Right.
legs and arms and
Yeah, yeah.
eyes and
There were signs that they once had
had
cyberware.
it right. And then finding the pit with all that stuff in is like, oh, they didn't just, that they had this and they or somebody took it away. But then it has at some point they actually meet the council, Thomas,
Mhm.
Fabricio, Christiana, Paola, Caesar, and Inez.
Looking on my Roll20 map, I picked the most sketchy looking pictures for
Pictures.
this council imaginable.
That's funny. But basically, they kind of go off on this spiel about how 2 months ago the village was a miserable place of sin and iniquity, and they were suffering. They had perpetual sickness, lack of food, beset by terrors in the jungle. Um, they say that a lot of their friends and family died or fled. That's how they're saying that the houses became vacant. They were lost, doomed, afraid. But then they were visited by an angel, Urzometh, because Urzometh is just a great name for an angel. Strode from the forest and spoke words of wisdom. Basically convinced the town people that the cyber pope was a false pope, idolizing technology, leading the people away from the true faith. But he was delivering them. Oh, by the Pope's hand, he was delivering them into damnation. Um, but basically, this so-called angel comes in, says the tech is the bad stuff, and you have to rip the tech from your own bodies, and then they would not need to worry about food, water, shelter, or anything like that. That they would be provided for them. So they're saying that now they leave clean lives, and any who would eat of our bread or partake in our neighborly shelter must show us that they walk, in this, and join us. So they're like, and which of you will be the first to rip out your cyberware? Which
Yeah.
I can't see any Storm Knight at any point saying, "Oh, me! I can't wait to throw away my god meter or rip out my samurai or a cult leg or whatever is going on." It did say that they don't push things too far. The Storm Knights are like, don't think so. It does tell the game master to you can use this as a way to promote some role playing exchange, but Julian seems disappointment, and basically they're like, just leave as soon as you can because we don't want you here. This is a point where I think the council realizes that they themselves would not be able to stand up to the Storm Knights, so are like we don't want to die right now, so we'll wait, we'll
Yeah,
postpone that eventuality. But that's kind of the end of scene one. We do
yeah.
things
I had
differently.
3 characters who had occult tech and or cyberware, so they were not receptive to the message.
Mhm. um, at some point, it says that as soon as it says the Storm Knights start asking probing questions or some other way present themselves a potential problem, um, as they try to isolate the Storm Knights in their shelter for the night, and then one of them builds a big bonfire. They put in a special powder, um, and it kind of blows the wind towards the Storm Knights, and they have to make a hard strength test. Otherwise, they have negatives to their spirit and spirit-based test until the end of the scene. Basically, it's a mind altering, more prone to suggestion type thing going on, but it's sort of to get them um, softened up, I guess,
Yeah,
in a way for scene two, the thing in the woods. So if you don't have anything else, we can move into scene two,
makes
thing in the
those
woods.
fear tests hard.
Yes. So later in the same evening, Lucinia again approaches the Storm Knights, I guess, unless they've completely shooed her off. A little more directly, she is nervous. Visibly, she tells them that the Knox, the person that they had been looking for, actually did come here over a week ago and is being kept in a building at the edge of town.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if the Storm Knights press, it's very hard persuasion or intimidation to do so. But at least on a standard, so against a hard, that she'll say that other people were taken to the house as well. She kind of refuses to say anything more, feels that she said too much, and then that is definitely going to have the Storm Knights directly traipsing over to that building to figure out what's going on. They get to the building with an easy 8 tracking test. Um, and different levels will tell them that it's been a couple of days since the last set of tracks. Different things going on. They have a chance. The Storm Knights have a chance to do a find or mind test to see that they aren't alone, even though they don't see anything specific. It did give an extra thing with the situational awareness perk. You got a free, you don't have to roll, so it's just kind of a given. And then it just says stealth tests are meaningless, so you're you're being watched. Um, and as soon as they get to the building, they notice a broken helicopter overrun with jungle vines, but possibly salvageable. And there's lots and lots of flies coming from inside the building because, sure enough, it is a house of corpses, including Knox. Um, so, what are your thoughts on the scene two, the thing in the
Well, the
woods, or at least the
the
beginning to
beginning of
getting
it,
the
yeah.
beginning of it?
So as I mentioned, my group didn't really believe in Luciana all that much, so they did intimidate her and try to get all the information out. And they thought she was leading them to a trap, but ultimately they followed her. And when they realized what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
that's when she kind of like escaped and ran off. And actually, I think she might have stayed with them now that I think about it. They wouldn't let her leave, which
Uh-huh.
is an issue for what's coming.
Right.
So they open this place, they check it out, and they can see all of these bodies. They
Mm-hmm.
find Ajax's, and the implant that they need, like the data on it, is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they realize that all the cyberware must be in that pit, which they were planning on boosting anyway. So now they think, okay, well now we have to uh, get that stuff, or at
Mm-hmm.
least find this one. The question is, how are we going to do it? So they head back to town, only to find out that there is stuff going on
Mm-hmm.
when they get there. Uh,
Yeah. So then we move on to the section out of time, with the little fire being lit, with the Storm Knights going and discovering this corpse house. It says Julian and the rest of the council decide it's time to deal with the Storm Knights. They gather all the villagers. The mob converges in the location. Um, he calls to the heroes, saying that they were warned, and then assuming that Lucinia had ran away, you said this was, you know, a wrench thrown
yeah,
to it with your group. Is they bring her out. She drops to her knees. Julian announces her betrayal, and then basically just boom, he kills her. Just no roll, no
yeah.
Storm Knights get to try to just she's done. It says the Storm Knights move to stop him. The Coven together cast Stun if enough of the team is close together, or individually to cast Slow if not. So it's like a whole lot of people now are able to cast magic spells, um, and the smoke from the previous scene can affect them. It says a round or two after, and I think in my group I might have just had to have it the next round
Oh
because
yeah, I had this
you
instant.
know yeah, is Urzometh arrives, and he is of course a demon taking the shape of anthropomorphic goat standing 3 meters tall. He is pretty tough. He has toughness 15, wounds of 4, three possibilities. Claws are pretty decent at 17 damage. See, his unarmed combat's 14. That's okay. Fear. So that's what you said. The fear test. If they had succumbed to the smoke, that is also going to lower their chance of that. Insidious, which is a nice complete a approved action, and he gets to take a destiny card from everybody or force them to discard. Um, he has a maddening gaze and diabolic force. So the maddening gaze is
Spirit based again.
spirit. Yeah. So he does a contest of spirit, and a good or if the demon wins, the opponent suffers 2 shock. Good is 4, and outstanding is a 4 shock, and target is stymied. Um, and then the diabolic force is he can use his own demonic power to move people and objects from a distance. So he uses strength as his spirit. Mainly uses to throw projectiles, pull or push objects. It's almost like a special ability of mage hands, but with for pushing and stuff like that. Um, so, what are your thoughts on the? Okay, the Storm Knights, know something's going on. They figure out what's going on, and oh, there's a demon.
So I don't remember like I have this vague memory of this being an actual tough fight,
Hmm.
but looking at the map, I don't see any damage on any of the players, but that might just because the tokens got fixed between or something.
Right.
Um
Or a lot of
so
possibilities spent to soak or.
yeah, so my memory is that they came in, they because they had her with them, they just sacrificed some other random
Hmm.
person, and I had the demon show up basically immediately.
Right.
And so it does mention that all seven members of the town council are forsworn,
Right.
and they can all cast spells and have abilities. One of which is they can summon a demon. Now, the theory that I was running is that that was what just happened.
Hmm.
So they couldn't use it again this turn, like this scene.
Right.
Um, but they can still stun and things like that.
Hmm.
So the fight went for a little bit. It looks like three members of the council got killed during it. Julian, Caesar, and Christiane. Looks like Fabricio and Paula ran off. They're like way in the middle of nowhere. And I don't remember how this happened, but somehow Tomas and Innes became subservient to the group. I think there might have been a reality card, like a Cosm card, or
Hmm.
oh, sorry, like a Destiny card played that lets them play a Cosm card from their own reality, and the Tharkold character
Okay.
dominated them or
Right.
something. I don't remember what happened because no one here had like psychic powers to mind control or anything like that. But the party defeated Urzometh, defeated most of the council, and then basically had Tomas and Innis effectively join them.
Hmm.
I think they might have worded it as penance or something like that. And there was a whole I think there was a speech by the Thargold character, which was like about how all religion was a scam and demons are nothing to fear and angels are worse and you need to start like thinking for yourself or something like that. And the cyber papacy characters were like, I don't know about that. But ultimately, it was a big fight. They were victorious in the end, and then they basically decide then had to actually start scavenging through all of the cyberware and everything. But they eventually found the implant and this TSC recorder,
Right.
and they luckily they needed a cyber deck, and they have a nodder with them, so they were able to. And yeah, so they found the information. They know where they need to go now.
I want to say the my I don't I actually don't remember me. I played the adventure. I might have missed this session because I don't
Mm.
remember this. I could be completely wrong. Game mastering it, I remember more of the aftermath because my group they found, like you said, the information. They got the cyberware that had it, um, and it says something like the Noxus's information uses signal triangulation and image comparison. So while that was kind of being set up, my group actually felt bad for the townsfolk after the
Hmm.
council. So they spent a little while like getting the Godnet tower up and working again and fixing some
Is
of the
that really good?
machinery. Yeah, and I want to say they even at least attempted the helicopter. Like the helicopter kind of drew their attention into like maybe kind of trying to fix that so that people who wanted to leave the town could leave the
Could, yeah.
uh, or they could the town could use it. Something I just remember that they were like really like we need to help this town. They were misled by the demon and they took everything away, and now without the demon they're really, because it's like your food and all this stuff is going to be provided for. Now they don't even have the demon to provide for them, so I
Yeah.
think they kind of felt bad. My group tends to that group at least tends to, they can be bloodthirsty when it's against bad guys, but they're completely like help anybody that actually needs help
I
type
think my
thing.
group was also more of the opinion like these townspeople are the ones that
Killed,
killed all
right?
the other
Sounds
townspeople. They are complicit in what happened and they
right.
deserve what they get, right?
Reminds like everybody deserves like fifth and sixth chances, don't they?
I mean, my group's all a bunch of criminals and one ex-cop.
uh,
So it's kind of a different vibe.
right, right. So then once they figure out where uh, the tree's location is smack dab in the middle of the, and I'm not, it's in a a national forest.
Taxwania?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not even gonna, I'm gonna butcher it, so I just will not. It's a protected area of incredibly dense and unpopulated jungle due south. No roads, no towns, no landing strips anywhere, so you can navigate by river, fly by helicopters, uh, which is funny because my group, like I said, they were big on trying to get that helicopter fixed, but I don't think it was even for themselves because they had the boat. So, and the boat they had acquired themselves, so they were happy with that. But then it leads to scene three: Pilgrims, which is the heroes grow closer to their goal, the so-called Garden of Eden, and learn of several other interested parties. Um, So yeah, in the possibility wars, news travels fast,
Yeah, I was
like
like,
super fast. Word of the discovery leaked on the Godnet, drawing attention of agents from Pan Pacifica and Aurora. So there's like people on the telegrams, doing Morse code to Garden of Eden in the Amazon, send people type type thing going there. It says the journey up the Amazon, whether conducted by foot, air, or boat, is serene without incident. But they start seeing some changes in the forest. Things seem to be healthier, more undergrowth, more fruit bearing flowers. Everything just like looks nicer, more vibrant. Um, and then at some point, they hear someone approaching through the jungle. There are five Victorian soldiers, accompanied by a Secullum priest in black wool pastor's clothes. So they get to meet the Victorian pastor and the soldiers. They can talk with them. At some point, they if the group goes with them, they kind of like, hey, let's go to the Garden of Eden together. They get to an angel, which is a host that is trying to keep people out. And then, so it's one of those, he doesn't attack unless they go for the archway behind him, but it can be depending on what the Storm Knights did with the Victorians, it could be a combined effort to get past um, the host, or it could be a solo group effort. My personal group decided to go with the Victorians. They immediately were like, that priest is bad. He's a monster. We know it as players. Every time, Leamon, in this adventure, you've had somebody try to be our friends. They ended up stabbing us on our in our back. The Tharkaldu character from Calais. Then you had the
you're like, it's not me.
yeah, like Sister Julia, and like every single act, somebody was, betraying them. They felt like they were in Pan Pacifica. They're like, well, this is the guy, of course, but we're Storm Knights. We'll, keep our player thoughts to ourselves and let our Storm Knights be Storm Knights. So they did fight Uriel with the priests, and even though it doesn't have it, and I'll actually wait. I then made the game master choice to heavily alter what was set up to happen to make it a little more rewarding for or what I felt was more rewarding for my players. So, what are your thoughts on the first part of Scene 3, the Pilgrims meeting the Victorians and the host?
My player's first question was this: how did they get here? So you're in this inaccessible area of jungle unless you walk in or you take a helicopter,
hmm
and you encounter a bunch of Victorians and a priest, and it's just like, okay, they're just here. Like, how did they get here? And there is some backstory into how they got there, but not really. It was just like, oh, he came to the jungle, and to plant seeds, and he heard about the tree, and like, to an extent, yeah, you do. I mean, we heard about the tree. That's why we're here, right? So it is a rumor. So he was in the area. I guess he was like at a bar with these Victorians with him, and heard about it and decided to investigate. So my group as well was also fully on this priest is sketchy, and I don't recall exactly what happened, but they immediately fought. Also, looking on my battle map here, they had the counselors Tomas and Ines with them. So they had two forsworn that they were like pulling around with them. And basically, they immediately discover the priest's secret, which is that he is a werewolf. And he was bringing, but interestingly enough, the Victorian soldiers don't know he's a werewolf,
hmm
and they were just following this pastor. And what happens is my group easily defeats the werewolf. They kill him, and now they have 5 Victorian soldiers following them as well. So now they've got this like whole like group of 2 forsworn and 5 soldiers. So they have this actual full team, and they because they mentioned that the Victorian soldiers are carrying this like all their gear on these poles, right?
hmm
So they force the counselors, the forsworn, to carry all the stuff now, so the Victorians can have their hands free.
Ah.
Yeah, then they move forward and they encounter the host, and I have no actual memory or record of what happened there. I think they just defeated it quickly with their overwhelming numbers.
hmm
Like, because those Victorians can put out some damage with their rifles, you know. So they're like a small army.
hmm
Uh, so they did not hide from it. They engaged it, which in theory should have alerted people, but I don't know if I was really thinking that far ahead at the time.
So, with like I said, with my group, I decided to completely change or alter it enough. So the way it's written, the Sikellum priest is the werewolf, as you said. He
Mhm.
was carrying a nightmare tree seed to plant. Heard rumors of the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. He thinks that some High Lord intended to hijack the Gaunt Man's brainchild, so he wants to destroy it to earn the Gaunt Man's favor, um, etc. That's where I completely then decided to change things up. Um, so at the time I was running this adventure, the Aurora source book was being written, and there was a perk inside of it called the tea ceremony, and I had the priest offer to do a tea ceremony with the group, and again the group is like, oh great, he's going to poison us, he's going to he's going to do all this stuff because those notes and that hadn't been released yet, but I decided just to play him as a normal priest for now, and they got the tea ceremony. It has some benefits, and I think they even played some cards on his roll to get it out. They're like, yeah, we're just screwing ourselves. We're just making it, whatever's going to happen to give him the bonuses. But they gave him the bonuses, and then it was an outstanding success, which I think it does some pretty neat, nice things for those who participate in it. Um, and then they parted kind of ways. They had gotten past the host. They decided to part ways, go different ways to the tree. And then you get to the point in the tree, or the next scene, the serpent in the garden, which is a caution cyber papacy mix zone. So
Doo-doo-doo.
on page 82, they give you the Akashan uh, world laws and axioms, and kind of explain how to do that. They give you a little guidance on the clash between the law of diversity and the law of the one true way, and then there's a Pronix swarm and a Rodangia creature that they can fight. They get to some ruins, and they can encounter a Dragok Hunter, which is a callback to classic Torg space gods. Um, and it's just a little bit of extra. I don't want to say like a scene between getting into the garden and getting to the
Yeah,
actual tree.
it's to
Kind of
know
like
there's something going on.
on. So there is that. Did you have anything to add about the serpent in the garden with the pranic swarm, the
Yeah, you
Akashan
basically
cyber
just
papacy?
move in and start to notice that things are changing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because they're storm knights, I mean, it's you can't really be too subtle. It's more like bam, it's occasion now. And I also had my occasion cosm cards as well that I
Uh-huh.
could swap some people out for as well. But there's basically, it's just you can almost see it like this ring of vegetation that's growing even more, almost like it's the living land instead of the
Mm-hmm.
cyber papacy. But there is a river that you need to cross, and the river is filled with piranhacks, which are basically just piranha,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, um, but I guess more dangerous. But they can fly is the
Right.
key.
It's like
So if you
Piranha
get too
2.
close to the water, like, so I could see on my map they had to fight both, because normally it's the Redangia is if you try to avoid the
Mm-hmm.
river, then you encounter this plant thing out there. But they definitely encountered both. They somehow got the plant very stymied. Or sorry, very vulnerable. But they defeated them. I could see by all the blast markers I left out here that they were using fire. So there was some fireballs and explosions going off. I don't even know where they came from, because I don't know if any of these characters have fireballs. Maybe it was grenades. I don't know. But they defeated them fairly handily. It is worth noting at this point, I think the Victorians got eaten by piranhas,
Ah.
because they are no longer on the map. There's but Koki and Raphael
Mm-hmm.
and the two Forsworn are still there. But yeah, then that once you get past that, you enter into what looks like a ruined city.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's covered in vegetation, but the thing is, the more astute, you'll notice that it appears to actually be a huge ship, like a pyramid-like structure, and a chamber. Birds flying around, but because my group was like a fairly high tech axiom, the the thought of spaceship was not outside of their
Mm-hmm.
thinking, so they pretty much put it together. And So that's when moving in. There's like a special tree, but of course none of them know anything about
Hmm.
uh, trees of life or any of this information from old Torg, so they don't have any of that legacy knowledge. So they just know that there's a cool tree in here, right? And there's some strange creatures, which at first they might mistake for Edinos,
Hmm.
but it quickly became clear that they were not. But I don't, again, really remember too much about this fight. Let me see. I had, yeah, there's like three Dragak hunters and one and Gar. I think they might have actually talked to them. I need to think about it. Yeah.
um, so basically, they get through the or travel through the ruins, uh, get to the Dragok hunters, and then move on to Scene 5 Strange Fruit, which is an Akashan dominant zone. Um, and basically, there's amazing flora, denser through the area. The air is thick with insects, floating spores, sap, sticky seeds, harmless tiny creatures cling to storm nights, so you can make your players as uncomfortable as you feel like by describing the jungle life and how it is affecting their characters with creepy crawlies. And then it has an Eno scout team around a tree, and they give like a map of big tree with a clearing around it. There's Ethnos warriors there. There's the Mirari tree, the tree of life. And then basically there's
Which is an eternity
which
shard.
is an eternity shard as an organic eternity shard. And then basically, as we stated earlier, there is like a Pan Pacifica had got a hold of the information, so there's a Pan Pacifica strike team. You can have the if the werewolf had have lived, he can be there, and then there are the Ednos, and then there are the Storm Knights, and then there are Cyber Papacy Expeditionary Force members. So there are up to 5 armies. This is one where I had them, they got to the area, they see the tree, the area around it's been cleared. They have, the Edenos coming in. It's like everybody coming outside of the jungle into the clear area at the exact same time. Um, I had the Sekelum priest step out of the jungle alone, which then set the the danger sense warnings of my players again. Oh, he's not with his Victorians. What's going on? And then I had him transform into a werewolf, which then where they were like, yep, yep, yep. And then I had the werewolf proceed to attack. I believe it was the cyber papacy people, and my group then the Storm Knights were kind of spread amongst some attacking Eden, some attacking Pan Pacifica, some attacking also attacking the cyber papacy. But once all the cyber papacy people were taken care of, I had the werewolf transform back into Caleb, the priest, uh, kind of give a smile, a wink, and a wave, and disappear back into the jungle. And my party never did figure out, is he bad? Is he good? Why did he do that? Where were his people? And it was just I decided that since they had done the tea ceremony with him, he would help them. And if they wouldn't have, then he would have attacked. But I just felt that that was a way to overturn uh, anticipated knowledge, where they were, oh, this is just going to be exactly the same, and had them questioning what was going on. Because as soon as he came out and turned into a werewolf, I want to say I had it maybe on the second round, and there's just a lot of bad guys that
Yeah.
just the number of them is enough that all it takes is like one or two bad explosions against the Storm Knights to kind of mess with them, and they were kind of worried, and then the werewolf comes out, and then they're more worried, and then it was like a little sigh of relief as they fought the rest. So how did the Battle Five armies go with your group, if you remember?
So now I do recall that they did talk to Gar, and they did not fight the Dragak, and
Right.
they snuck in. They
Mhm.
avoided the first Adino's patrol, and so they came in and they thought they were being real slick and avoided all the cyber priests because you could see them picking the fruit and
Mhm.
everything. Um, and they snuck into the storehouse, uh, and basically like opened up a crate, and the ninja attacked them. Rather, not a ninja, but a Pan Pacifica Strike Force soldier,
Mhm.
right? Strike Team soldier. So the interesting thing here is that there's actually a bunch of fruit, right?
Mhm.
They've been picking a bunch of fruit, but because it's an Eternity Shard, uh, they basically need to spend a possibility when they pick it, for the way the Eternity Shard works. Um, and then the fruit only lasts for 1 BD days,
Mhm.
unless it's refrigerated or somehow, then it's 1 BD weeks. And then it takes a month for it to get its fruit back. So there's only so much fruit. And what does it do? Cures a disease, any disease this time, and prevents aging for 1 month and completely heals you. So if you're eating this once a month, you're basically ageless,
Mhm.
which is something I'm sure people would be interested in. But yeah, the curing of a disease is also a huge deal, and that's what Raphael needs. Now, the funny thing I found was that the Pan Pacifica team came equipped with a special blender
Yeah.
that yeah,
They're
that
gonna
they
make a smoothie out of it.
yeah, they made a smoothie. So they process and condense a sample of the Murari fruit, making a swirling red and blue mixture with all of the impurities and bacteria removed. Which, since it heals disease, what
It
does it
was
matter?
right, right, right.
Yeah. And then they
Extra
have to
caution.
bring they are under strict orders to return the smoothie to their team leader. Uh, and so this fight over this smoothie starts. There's in this so in this storeroom, there's the Storm Knights. There's these Pan Pacifica Strike team, and then after round one, a bunch of Adinos
Mhm.
also snuck in. So there's this sort of three-way going on. And actually, now I'm just looking. There, the Cyber Pepsi was there. There was a Cyber Priest and a couple of expeditionary police came in. So there was like this whole fight. But it's everyone was going for this smoothie when in reality, any of the picked fruit would be
It'd be
fine,
fine. Right, right.
right? Like they don't need the smoothie, but they got so caught up with it, and it was kind of like in Fires of Raw. Like they tried to throw it over to Raphael and botched it, and it went flying, and there was like this scramble for it, and eventually Ray, which is the mutant, she managed to grab it and ran and managed to like hand it off to Raphael like mid battle. Like take it, drink it now, right? So that was sort of like the penultimate. The fight was still going on.
Mhm.
The Cyber Priest had been taken out. Looks like all the Pan Pacifica guys have been taken out, but uh the Forsworn were still there with them. The Adinos were all pretty much in good condition, but the fight was still ongoing when they gave it the smoothie to Raphael, and he just chugged it down. And then we'll get to that.
Yeah, so like I said, there's the big fight over the smoothie, which any of the fruit could have could have done. I wanna, unless I made it up, I want to say that there was something where it was almost like overpicked.
Yeah, it does
So
say that the smoothie is the equivalent of three
three,
fruits,
right?
so
So
it
it's like
heals you
super.
3 times.
but it was like if they didn't get something now, it wouldn't necessarily be up in the future. Like there's a whole clearing around the tree,
Mhm.
and as you stated, the cyber papacy was picking and having machinery and stuff around it. Um, but yeah, there's the big fight for the smoothie. As I said, I had the werewolf come in, help out a little bit. They were able to take it, get got defeated the Pan Pacific Strike team, got the smoothie, and as you say, they gave it to Raphael, who it even says like if people aren't watching, he's going to break away and try to grab the nearest fruit anyway. So whether or not your party gives it to him or he has a chance, he's going to grab the smoothie, the nearest available fruit, whatever, eats it. And then it says almost instantaneously an amazing transformation takes place. His pupils vanish, his eyes turn completely black, an aura of unbelievable menace emanates from him, and he addresses the Storm Knights. Basically, tells them that Raphael, this vessel, is much better than that useless husk Carmen possibly could be. Um, so where Carmen was a what was it called, a partial match or something
Mhm.
like that.
In
This
the
is our
database.
partial compatibility in the database. This is like full compatibility. It says unlike last time, the Ebenex Crux Raphael doesn't stick around. He dim threads himself away and leaves the Storm Knights going, ha!
Yeah.
Ha! What just happened there?
So like the only thing stopping Raphael from being the perfect candidate for Ebenezer was his disease,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason. But
Right.
so once that was cured, suddenly now Ebenezer can use this body to its fullest, and he is now has a mortal form and is able to do things. But yeah, the fact that he just immediately bails, players were like, "What?" And basically the other players just from the rest of the campaign just continuously mocked Ray, the Thargold character, for being the one to hand him
And
the
the smoothie.
because at the time, like they saw Lucien, who's the nodder in the
Mm-hmm.
group, he saw that that Raphael was trying to go for some fruit, and he's like, we can't just give it to him right away. Like, and Ray's like, no, we have to do it. And then this happened, and then they're just like, oh, Ray. And then I mean they easily defeated the remnants of the Adinos and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think if memory serves, the Adinos got a fruit and ran
Mm-hmm.
off with it. And so I don't know what they did with it, but they had one. And they could probably use Lanella Miracles to extend its
Lifetime.
lifespan,
Yep.
Uh, the cyberpapsy operation was completely wrecked, though, as were the Pan Pacifica, and they eventually had to get like they stole some kind of vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
like a cyberpapal vehicle, and got out of there. Koki was, of course, extremely distraught over the
Yes.
whole situation, and the two forsworn counselors were brought in for deprogramming
Ramming.
to the Delphi Council, even though their souls are stained black
Right.
somewhat.
Right.
They were probably enrolled into I just totally blanked on the
uh,
name. Project or no, the not Delphi.
Eris.
Eris, yes. They were probably immediately put into
Yes.
Eris, all right. But yeah, so that's how that act went for us. And so now everyone was just left with a well, crap.
Yeah, I was, I guess, mistaken. It says Raphael was another partial match, although clearly better match than Carmen, it says. But whatever. Like you said, Koki is distressed because she really believed him as a prophet. And here her, quote unquote prophet is merged with the the cyber, the darkness device of the cyber papacy, which is what she was against in the first place. And then the Storm Knights kind of figure out how to get back to the Delphi Council, or like
It's like
what's going
we have a
on.
story for you.
You. But it just does say once they get back, they get word from the Delphi Council. I wouldn't have it immediately. I'd probably have it wait, because otherwise, again, it's like, wait, we just arrived back and you already know all this stuff. But it
Well,
says,
it's
yeah,
took weeks to get here,
yeah.
right?
Once they get back, they get word from the Delphi Council that Raphael has been spotted on the Godnet. And whatever he is planning, there might be time to stop it before it's too late. So we'll stop there, because that is the end. Next, Act 7 is the wrap up to figure out what is going on with Evanix Crux and
Revelation.
Raphael and everything else. So thank you very much for watching us. Again, you can email us at torgdcd@gmail.com. Send us your emails. We'll read those. We'll answer questions and comment on your comments. But until next time, we hope you have fun in your own Cosmoverse. Bye.